Chad, internet slang. A very handsome, usually tall man whom women find sexually attractive, at times seen as an alpha male of a group. Hey there, my name's Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and there are quite a few Chads in the Souls games, aren't there? But what about Giga Chad? Internet slang, an extremely admirable man, a Chad amongst Chads, having an even higher level of attractiveness than a Chad. Many Chads, but there's only room for one Giga Chad. Who? Well, of course, there's no particular right or wrong answer here, as you've probably figured out. That is to say, it will depend on who you are asking. But we'll look at some of the Chads and then determine amongst them who has earned, if any, the crown of Giga Chad. We'll only look at male characters because I think there's another term for the girls, Stacy or something. I think I need my girlfriend to make that one though. Once I explain the concept to her, I'm not sure I'm fit to judge what is a true Stacy. But then again, maybe only men can decide that and only women can decide what is Chad. I don't know. I think you would get very different answers to some extent if you asked a man or a woman. Well, this isn't the same topic as the Mighty Knights video I made some years back. That was largely just about who's the strongest amongst them. But when it comes to the Chad, it's more about the aesthetics and even more so the attitude than winning or losing. You can lose in style and win like a loser, after all. Still, let's start off with the lesser Chads, the baseline Chads, shall we? Most of these options are ones I heard from you guys, but I picked the ones I agreed with, or seemed fitting. As mentioned, no ladies here. A few people wanted characters like Midir too, but I think dragons are sexless, for one thing, plus they are dragons. And if we're going for like the dragons, then Calamite is the Giga Chad dragon. First up, Demon's Souls, Bior of the Twin Fangs, Old King Doran, and of course, Gull Vinland. And I'm only counting the original, not the remake. Moving on to Dark Souls, Vamos, Black Iron Tarkus, Oswald the Pardoner, Andre of Astora, Solaire of Astora, and Abysswalker Artorias. And their king, Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. Dark Souls 2, Strayed of Alathis, Velstart, Vendrick, Ivory King, Sir Alon, and Benhart of Jugo. Dark Souls 3, Horus the Hushed, Slave Knight Gale, Prince Lorien, Gundyr, Bloodborne, Alfred, Hunter of Vile Bloods, Voltaire, Master of the League, I actually have forgotten how you pronounce his name, and Ludwig. Shadows Die Twice, The Sword Saint, Ishin, Elden Ring, Horalu aka Godfrey, Radahn, Radagon, and Mikola. I deliberately left that last one for last because I want to briefly discuss now what makes a Chad. We have the internet definition at the top of the video, the start of the video, whatever, but I'm sure you've seen those Virgin versus Chad memes too. And in general, it seems that many different people have differing views on what makes a Chad. To me though, it's someone who is unapologetic and unbothered by the mainstream, someone who does their own thing, someone who goes their own way and makes it work. Someone brought up, for example, when I was talking about this initially, Giant Dad. Aside from that not being a character, that was a pretty min-maxy sort of build, and precisely the sort of thing I don't think a Chad would care about. A Chad's not going to go, oh, well if I put this many points into this, and then I can still fast roll and use the flip ring, and I use a chaos elemental weapon. Like, no. A Chad move is like putting 99 points into strength, and then hitting people with their catalyst, their magic catalyst, you know? Complete, unique nonsense. I mean, just look at the original Virgin versus Chad thing. He's wearing, like, green, pink, and his, like, vest says ouch on it or something. It's not pushing the most out of a build in a desperate attempt to try and win in PvP. Example, Velstart. Is it practical to fight with a giant bell? Absolutely not. His helmet is also a bell, sort of. He's an absolute unit of a man who is very, very tall, and he has an absurd aesthetic. Yet somehow, it works. Which brings me to Mikola. Of course, the DLC isn't out at the time I'm making this. We don't even have a release date. Oh. But whilst physically, Mikola is not a stereotypical Giga Chad in that he's like 7 feet tall, 300 pounds of muscle with an unfeasible jawline and whatnot, he has the characteristics otherwise, though. He knows how to compel affection. He was in the process of creating his own Erd tree. One of the mightiest warriors considers him the most fearsome of Empyrean. He also appears to be a pretty good guy, which I think is another aspect of Chadism, at the risk of making it sound like some sort of cult or religion, which I'm hoping it isn't. But Chads in general seem to be well-meaning. They're not spiteful, they're not cruel. Seems like Mikola's out to help people, generally speaking, but who knows. That said, if in the DLC he takes on, maybe he's gonna take on his Horalu form. I don't know how I'd feel about that, it'd be pretty funny, so sure, why not? I'd also like to give a quick shout out to some honourable mentions. Jester Thomas, Transcendent Ed, or Eddie, and Maldron from Dark Souls 2, who all have some Chad energy to them. But how about we try and boil it down to the top Chad of each game? It's like Top Gear for Chads. Who is the Chaddest in the world? Aside from Shadows Die Twice, because I only felt like Ishin was there and applicable, so we'll not discuss that one too much. Demon's Souls. I think it has to be the old king. At the end of the day, Garl is a bit too obsessed with his maiden. No self-respecting person is going to live in a giant pile of poo just because their one-itis had a saviour complex. Bior. Well, Bior is Bior and he's great, with a great laugh. But what gives Doran the edge, in my opinion, is his death shriek. I'm not going to include it here, because if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you pause this video, you open a new tab, you write in Old King Doran Death Scream or something, and I guarantee, however strange you're thinking it might be, it is at least 3 times worse, or better, depending on how you look at it. Dark Souls. I think the popular choice here, judging from comments I got when I was asking, who are the Chads of Dark Souls and such, Tarkus. Gets summoned, solos a boss, refuses to elaborate, leaves. Attempts to walk along a 2-inch thick beam in full plate armor with great shield and great sword and bucket helmet. Doesn't take it off. Falls off, dies. Certainly a good contender. Andre with his dropkicks is up there too. Whilst Ornstein is my favourite of these characters, I think Tarkus is the best fit here for Chad energy. No, I don't think Sorig is Tarkus. He probably just took his gear at some point, wanted to show how strong he was by using armor that was considered generally impossible to use. Dark Souls Part 2. We have a lot of very good contenders here, including one of my favourite Souls NPCs, Strayed Valafis. My man fought dragons, he was friends with the king, wears swordsman robes despite being a wizard, gives you the same stylish robes, and wants you to stop being so weak. That's on top of being able to use basically every type of magic, just because, and having made a bunch of his own spells as well. And not really caring that he was petrified. He's just all like, how long was I sat petrified? I don't recognize this stupid place. Darkstalker should have been replaced with a super boss, optional battle against Strayed. But everyone else in the list, all very good contenders too. I could make a video just talking about the Dark Souls 2 options, quite frankly. But how about the obvious contender missing out here, you might be thinking? Someone who was mentioned, I think like 2 people brought him up when I was asking. Rame, the Fume Knight. Here's the thing, there's nothing Chad about him. For starters, he got creamed by Velstar despite being kind of a min-maxer, ran away to simp for a daughter of Manus, and achieved nothing. He couldn't even decide on a proper weapon, so he was, going, oh, I got this sword, I got that sword, I got this big shield, I got all these things. Like, my man, just pick something. No one likes a wishy-washy person. Who wears all black armor? What is he, emo? Incidentally, there's an old developer interview. I forget where it's from as it's been like 10 years. Sorry, it might be from the design works, I'm not sure. But in that interview, they mention, in an offhand remark, that Raim is already dead when you fight him. He's effectively being puppeteered by Nadalia. Being a bitch puppet is not Chad energy at all. Nor is vaping for that matter, and he is the Vape Knight. Dark Souls 3. Genuinely a tough one. A lot of dudes in this game simping for girls. That's what prevents old Egon, for example, making the cut. Also, he put his sister or something into a shield and makes it moan at people. I don't know if that is Chad energy or just weird. It's on the line though. Gale? Absolute unit. Terminator of a man. Nice beard. Likes making weird noise whilst in the fetal position. But he's lacking the self-confidence, you know. And, you know, being a Chad, at least a big part of it is self-confidence to do anything, to go out wearing a neon green shirt that says ouch on it. So it's got to come down between Gundyr and Lorien. And if you ask me, it's Lorien, just about. For starters, he dunked on the Demon Prince by himself, which is quite a feat. Gwyn's Black Knights fought the Chaos Demons and were also left charred. On top of that, Lorien willingly partakes of his younger brother's curse, so as to presumably ease his virgin brother's weakling sufferingness, even if it leaves him mute and a cripple. Despite that, he's still able to put up a pretty good fight. Fighting him in his prime would have been an interesting battle. But I'm sure someone could convince me that Gundyr takes the crown here. But, moving on. Bloodborne. It's gotta be Alfred. He wears a golden triangle on his head. He fights with a giant wheel, and this.
I smashed and pounded and grounded this rotten siren into fleshy pink pulp. There, you filthy monstrosity. What good's your immortality now? Try stirring up trouble in this sorry state. All mangled and twisted, with every inside on the outside for all the world to see.
Skipping to Elden Ring, because Ishin is the only Chad from Sekiro-verse. Radahn and Godfrey are the stereotypical Giga Chad. I mean, look at them, right? Godfrey only loses a few points because a lot of his motivation seems to be just, gotta get back to Marika. It's only a few points though. Radagon, as much as I don't really care for him, he's got some good Chad points. He was Queen of the Stacys and decided to become Giga Chad as well, just because. Stopped fighting Renala and married her instead. Spawned the absolute unit that is Radahn. Got some really cool items and spells associated with him, and of course, he T-poses. And then he wakes up, refuses to elaborate, and spawns a blob god thing when he dies. That's ignoring the whole breaking the Elden Ring whilst fixing it at the same time thing. Makes no sense, and that's part of it. As for Miquella, well, again, he lacks the physical aspect, perhaps, because he's not tall and he's not, like, super muscular and masculine and all that, but he does have the other parts down. Everyone loves him. That's a big part of being a Chad. The charisma. There are none with a higher charisma stat in Elden Ring than Miquella. He was also casually making his own holy tree. Who knows, maybe in the DLC we'll fight Giga Miquella when he does transform into a 17-foot tall, super buff version of himself. I think realistically, out of these options here, I have to give it to Radahn. He has the physical aspect of it. He's proud of his, like, red hair and stuff. He learned magic so that he could carry on riding a very tiny, weak horse that is not suitable for riding into battle. He's able to Valstrax you for no discernible reason, and he could hold back the stars. Everyone presumably liked him to some extent, considering he's almost universally considered the strongest of the demigods, and a pretty cool fella. Some people got pictures of him up in their house and such. Hell, Jeren hosts the Radahn Festival, and all his soldiers are fighting the good fight in Caelid even now, just so they can give him a good death. And he is the Chad among Chads who has mini Chads following him, you could say. Like, have you seen Redmane Knight Ogre? Yeah. Look at Radahn's build. Strength int. What? That doesn't really make sense, but he makes it work. Incidentally, Blythe is probably strength int as well, and he gets an honourable mention just because I like Blythe. Either way, Radagon is a close runner-up, managing to be both Giga Chad and Giga Stacy at the same time. Which means now we need to pick the Chad, the Giga Chad. Who do you think? For me, there's no doubt about it. There is a clear winner in my mind. And here's why. No intro cutscene, still manages to have the coolest entrance of any Souls boss, and one of the most interesting boss fights with a gimmick that allows you to scale it to your desired level of difficulty. Ever merciful, bound a daughter of Manus to his side instead of being enthralled by her. A knight of Ferosa, land of the Dark Souls 2 Chads. Look at that armor on the Dark Souls 2 cover. Became a king, not from lineage, but from might and strength. Was always the first to swing his blade to defend his people and his homeland. Founded said homeland to seal away chaos, placed his throne on the mouth of chaos so he would be the first one to dab on it. Had a lightsaber or something. His armor makes absolutely no sense. What's going on there? But he pulls it off with gusto. Unlimited loyalty from his knights, who have some of the coolest gear too. His strength was fully drained by the time we fight him, and yet he still puts up one hell of a fight, barely seeming corrupted by chaos, only a little bit charred by it. Had 7 giant cats. He literally can't stop winning. Even when you kill him, he wins, because he already won. You killing him is just seeing his goal furthered in stopping the old chaos. You want to be him, but you can't be him. He's him. Deal with it. That is my opinion. But what do you think? Do let me know down in the comments. Either way, thanks so much for watching this bizarre video. I had a lot of fun making it, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao.